Hey, this is Mike Gingerich. I want to welcome you to another Live with Mike. And today, we want to talk about app development costs and how you can much more easily figure out what goes into an app and the app development costs through a app called, as a matter of fact, app development costs.com. Let's see, is that the full URL? I want to make sure I get that right for you. App development cost singular.com. Okay, so I want to dive into that because all the time we get asked and say, how much does it cost to develop an app? And or hey, I want an app. And the people typically behind this are in industries other than tech, and so therefore they don't know all that goes on and is involved with app development. And that's important in terms of, because it's such a vague, develop an app. That's even more vague than I want to get a website, because with an app, you've got the Google Play Store, you've got the Apple Store, you've got web apps. Then you break down within that. So there's native, there's hybrid, all these types of pieces on that thing, and so and then just figuring out the cost. They typically, for some reason, people think that apps are going to be fairly inexpensive to develop, and that's typically not the case. You have to think that a lot of them have the same kind of complexity infrastructure of a website, but then you have the app store pieces on top of that, and then meeting the compliance of the actual app stores and some of the integrations with the mobile devices, tablets that they're trying to use. So you've got these stacks of pieces there, which add complexity to it. And therefore, an app typically is more costly than just a website or a web app. But first things first, there's the first question we have to answer is, well, how do you want this developed? Okay, because there's multiple ways to do that. There's native. Okay, and then there's another term which is called hybrid, and then there's another web apps. So a native app is developing it in the native language of that platform. So like the Google Play Store runs on the Android platform, which uses Java as the coding language. So to develop a native app for the Google Play Store, the app needs to be developed in Java for that. Okay, so that's just for the Google Play Store. Now, Apple has a different coding language, so they use a Swift code as their programming language. And so if you want it native for Apple, you're going to need to develop it in Swift. And so you're right, if you're going to develop it natively for Google Play, Android, and Apple, you're going to need two apps, two builds. And that's if it's native. Now that gives you all the functionality of those languages, whatever they want to offer. So that gives you the most flexibility. So native app development has the most power, but it's also the most costly to maintain, because you have to do things separately for Apple Store, Google Play Store, that type of thing. That's native. Then the second one is hybrid. Okay, so a hybrid is a more versatile, more efficient, more cost-effective way of developing. This is typically how we would like to tackle apps. And that's going to involve a method which is a hybrid of that. So it is one code base, not Java, not Swift, something else that we develop in, then wrapped into a layer, typically some type of framework that does some magic on the code that allows it to be submitted to the Apple Store and to the Google Play Store in ways that each of those will accept. So it's one code base with some structure on top that funnels it into an allowable source for each of those apps. So again, obviously that would seem more cost effective, right? Because you have one code base. You make changes in to your code once, and then you can be able to push those to both stores, versus the others where they're totally independent. So that's the hybrid. And again, that's now it's come a long way. There used to be that had less power than a native app, and there were a lot fewer features that it offered. But hybrid's come a long way, and it's going to offer 95% of what a native app could offer. Okay, so when I come back to native apps, you have to think about like the Facebook app is a native app, for instance. And so if you look at the Facebook app on a Android device and you look at it on a Apple device, The screens may look a little different. The menu items might be in different locations. That's because they are technically they're Facebook's app, but they are technically different. This is an Android one. This is a iOS Apple one. Okay, but with a hybrid app, they're gonna look the same because it is technically one app, one code base with this layer on top that allows it to be pushed into both stores. So we often like to work with hybrid apps, and they've come a long way. More power. I think that's a good tool for the majority of users going forward in the future. And the third one, and then is a web app, which is basically a mobile responsive website geared towards the mobile user. And it's not going to be in the Apple Store or Google Play Store. It's just going to be available on the web. You can save an icon to your phone so you can access that, but it's not going to be found in those Play stores. That's a web app, which is technically a website, just happens to be focused totally on mobile users. All right, so those are the three types. And that's going to be kind of the foundational question when you go to appdevelopmentcost.com. That's going to be one of the first things they ask you. Okay, so they have a number of questions they're going to run you through, and that's a key one. So now I'm talking about the site itself, appdevelopmentcost.com. It's going to run you through next questions then. So I've got those listed in the blog post that you can come to afterwards here, the link below. The icon for the Apple Play Store, I mean, that's simple. Everybody's going to do that. What kind of security do you need? That's going to determine, what some of the costs are going to be involved. How do you want to handle your data storage? Are you pulling data from some in-house source, or is it all, web-based on a web server, cloud storage? That's going to impact things. What kind of login features do you going to need? Is there going to be, user accounts that need to be set up? There's typically going to need to be some type of admin area for admins to be able to make edits to the site. What are those functions? How is all that going to work? Media features. Okay, so this again can play into whether you need native, hybrid, or web. So like those media features, because if you want to tap into the phones, if you want to have push notifications, for instance, okay, then you need to be able to tap into the operating system of the mobile device, the iOS system, the Android system there. And so to have push notifications, you are at least going to have to do hybrid, native or hybrid, to get push notifications. You can't do push notifications on your phone with a web app. All right, so that's a key. And then the complexities are, you need to access the camera, the video camera, to the record feature within the phone. So some of those features you need to be able to use. So the more complex they are, the more the highest complexity is going to definitely need native. But again, 90 to 95% of all the features of a native can be done with a hybrid, but it's tapping into those. But that's important in cost developments. Like, we're going to need to allow the user to use their camera, use their video, use a QR code scanner, push notifications, some of those other features within your phone. And then there's user design features. There's do we need any third-party integrations? Not necessarily, again, could happen at any of those levels, but is there some data we need to pull and sync with, push data, pull data, all those types of pieces? That's going to add cost to it. So this appdevelopmentcost.com is a app development cost calculator. They had reached out to me, kind of blogger outreach, because of my business blog, and it does well with getting traffic, popularity on the web. And so they wanted to recommend that I make people aware of this tool. I looked at it, I said, yeah, that's helpful. It's even helpful for me in my business. Not necessarily the pricing. Their pricing comes through, it gives you a ballpark range. It does. I think it's on the high side from what my experience is, but better to be on the high side than the low side. And it runs you through those features, and you answer all these questions. It kind of gives you a ballpark range. It does require some of this knowledge information I'm giving you, because it just says native or hybrid. So you have to kind of know what those pieces are. And so what I'm trying to explain to you today, so you can use this tool effectively. But it goes through, it's ultimately going to give you a range, and you're going to be able to see what the cost is, and that's important. Now, again, with apps, you need to recognize that there's typically going to be ongoing cost because there's monthly for maybe your web uh, cloud storage of data. There's going to be some yearly things, security, encryption. There's going to be the Apple a yearly $99 a year developer license fee. I think Google Plays is only one time, and that's only like it's $25 or something like that. 69, 25. I think it's only maybe even $25. I have to look that up again. But that's a one-time cost. But there are ongoing, and then you have to take a look at, particularly if you're using hybrid or native. Remember, iOS versions change. Just for instance, Android versions change, and so when there's major updates there, that could impact your apps. You need to make your app comply with those pieces, so you have to have work done to that. So you have to figure in there's ongoing costs. It's not an app is not I will build it, they will come, and we're done. It's going to be ongoing. You have to invest in that piece there. So that's what I wanted to cover today. And again, appdevelopmentcost.com. If you're thinking about building an app, that's where you want to go. Hopefully this post is helpful on giving you some background in some of those key early decisions, it's going to ask you. So now you know what those mean, and gives you a guide on how you want to answer those questions. And, you can see by going one way or going another way what the cost range, ballpark range difference is when you do those. So that's the key today, is take a look at that, and hopefully that will help educate you on when you say we need an app. And then we say, how do you want that built? Those are some of the key things that you're going to want to think through, talk through. That can have a wide range of cost implication. And again, apps can be great for personalization, for using the custom features of mobile devices like push notifications, and for giving a great kind of user experience that you can't just get with a website on a mobile device. All right, so that's what I got for you this time around, the Halftime Mike podcast. As always, come over to the blog, ask some questions, give me some feedback, take a look at some other business blog posts. Hopefully that's helpful. This is Mike, over and out. Take care.